Hey there, welcome to the second part of my Napier Railton painting project. At this stage I'm starting to get into details. I'm currently working on the trees in the background and putting in highlights. They already have a few layers of paint now. And as I'm going through this part, I'm also struggling emotionally. The first third of a painting is always kind of depressing to me and very draining, and I get bogged down. I lose my energy and I start to wonder, what did I get myself into? But I've learned from experience that if I just keep on working on the painting little bit by bit, I'll get through it eventually. And it's almost like going through a ditch, and when you're halfway through and you're getting out the other side, then you start to get hope again and you get enthusiastic about it and you look forward to getting to the other side, and then the painting also starts to make sense and kind of encourage me to finish it. And so this is basically the bad part of it, the difficult part. I once started the painting in 1999, and after about 10% of the work I put it away and I could only look at it again 3 years later. So I finished it in 2003. And these days it's much easier for me because from experience I know now that I'll get through it. I believe in myself now and so on. But in the beginning it was terrible. So at the moment I'm working on the bridge there and adding some detail, and I keep on taking some away and adding some because it feels sometimes like I'm overdoing it and giving it too much details. And the trees as well. At the moment the trees look pretty to me, but they seem too overwhelming. I don't know, I still have the car in mind, and the car is the important part. So I'm still working with that in my mind as well. And also, which car am I gonna do? Should I change the number and some details? When you work from photos like this as well, you worry about things like copyrights. I don't even know if this photo is copyrighted. I don't know where it is or who owns it or who took the photo or if this person is still alive. I have no idea. But I could either decide to not do it because I run a risk of a copyright, or I can just, live in the moment and do something and then paint it and run the risk of being sued afterwards. I do not really believe that I stole or that I steal or that I infringe on copyrights. The painting is still a lot different from the photo. There's a lot of details that were not on a photo that I got from other photos and videos. And there's a lot of details missing. It isn't even colored, so you cannot even tell what color most of the things are. The greens, for example, I have no idea what trees look like. I know what trees look like, but not in England, because I'm always told that England is so green with all the rainfall, and I've never been there. And I've never been to the Brooklands Racing Circuit. I'm not sure. I know it's cement, I know there's moss growing on it, but you do get different shades of grey for concrete. Some even have a yellowish or a reddish or a bluish kind of color to it. I don't know what to do there, so I improvise and I try to find newer photos or colored photos or footage, and when I cannot, I do what I think I have to do, and that is to improvise and imagine what it would have looked like if I was there in 1935. And I'm sure most of it I get wrong, but you know, that's where your artistic freedom comes in, I believe. If it's wrong, then it's wrong, but at least it will give someone some kind of feeling of how that event must have been, or you know, or it must give someone pleasure to look at it, or decorate some room somewhere. And sometimes that's all you have to go on, which makes things difficult and complicated. And well, that's, you know, that's life, I suppose, especially for an artist. I think many times of going into directions where you don't have to work from photos, but my main interest is cars and mechanical things. I like ships, I like aeroplanes, I like cars. And you can hardly do any one of those without somewhere crossing some kind of path with an existing image. And these days, even if you do portraits, I've heard of local artists here in South Africa that got sued by the models. Some artists painted portraits of models that they basically rented, or you know, to pose for a painting or a portrait, and then afterwards, years later, that artist becomes famous, and maybe even that painting becomes well known, and then the artist ends up getting sued by the models because they now want a share of the money that was made of that painting, even though it wasn't agreed on that. And we used to think that if you paint someone, then that's it. You don't owe that person anything, especially if you've paid that person to pose for you. But these days it's starting to get to a point where you have to get them to sign a model release form, which is common in photography, but most of the painters don't even know of these things. And that also makes life difficult. People used to tell me an artist can paint anything and not worry about getting sued, but it's not like that anymore. So anyway, if I do get sued for this, I'll be sure to let you guys know how it turns out. Maybe we'll all learn something about it, because I'm not a lawyer for sure. And being in South Africa, painting cars from Europe and trying to sell them to Americans, I suppose I have a lot to learn about these things. And the only way to learn is through experience, because I am not a lawyer myself and I cannot afford a lawyer, or in this country at least. And I have tried to get lawyers to help me patent mechanical designs that I had, and at the end of the day, the costs would have been astronomical just to find out if something has a patent on it. Would cost me hundreds of thousands of rands, which nobody has in their back pocket in this country, unless you're a politician. So the advice of the lawyers with that mechanical part that I had was that I should just make it and sell it, and when someone comes up with a patent, then you just apologize and you stop making it. That's what lawyers tell me to do. So with art, they can't even tell me, the ones I've asked. So I guess we'll see. Anyway, back to the painting. I'm now giving more layers to the landscape. So I've kind of not neglected, but I'm avoiding the car at this point. I'm trying to first get the background more or less working, because that will have a huge impact on the way the car has to be painted. You know, you have things to think about, like the lighting. It's difficult to say from the photo if the photo was overexposed or if it was a really sunny day. What I do have to go on with that is a shade underneath the car. It looked quite dark. So it could be that there was a direct sunlight on the car during the race and not too cloudy. But then again, if you look at the photos and the videos, the color of the racetrack and it's so bright that when you paint it like that, it's almost going to be a white surface, and I don't like to have white surfaces. I don't believe in a painting there should be too much white, because nothing is ever white. It is usually just shades of grey. If you look at things in real life, the only thing that is really, really white when you paint it is reflective light, reflected light, if you will. And so you have to kind of darken things down a bit. Otherwise, you're not going to have the same effect when you paint the reflections on things, the shiny bits. And sometimes you'll find after finishing a painting that you maybe have to give everything a few layers of color just to darken it and to make the shiny bits stand out more and to give it some contrast. Contrast is, to me, more important in paintings than in photographs. I've done some photography as a hobbyist and sold stock photos on these stock photo websites. Some of my photos are still for sale on them. And with a painting, you need to give it a little bit of extra contrast to make the 3D kind of effect stand out, and to, like my wife would call it, to pop. She says it pops. So that's why I try to do as much as possible of the surrounding areas of the image, of the part that really has to be 3D. I want this car to appear to almost be flying or jumping out of the painting, you know. And I see there are artists these days that make 3D components of the car that they then stick onto the canvas, and then they color that in with the paint, with they paint on the canvas, and that doesn't just give it a 3D image, but you actually have a 3D car. It kind of sticks out of the painting, which to me is awesome. But I don't think I'll do it myself. It's a great idea, and I love looking at those people's paintings. But I don't want to do that. I want to try and paint mine to look like 3D. And I'm starting to now put some detail again on the spectator standing there on that little side street, side avenue or open patch of land, I'm not sure. And I also started to work on the tunnel. You'll see that little white part behind the crowd there in the apex of the corner. There's the tunnel that I discussed in the previous part. You can see the exit of the tunnel there, well, kind of. So I don't want to make it too obvious, but I am adding it because it was part of it. And there's some kind of structure which I just colored in now. That structure, I don't think it was a permanent structure. I think it was something that they used to construct the tunnel with, maybe, or to remove material. I'm not exactly sure what it is. So I tried to make it look like something, but from the photo I cannot really see what it is. It does fill the picture a bit, so I'm putting it in, and there I'm highlighting the grass now a bit as well. I don't want the grass to be too dark. I was told that the grass in England is a very, very bright green, but I do not want the grass to distract from the car. So I'm making it a little bit more dull. I'm not sure if you did get dull grass and plants there in England. Please comment if I'm wrong with this, or if you have any opinion on this. I would like to hear comments. So anyway, now I'm starting to work on the car again, and I'm basically working on the body. I'm now doing the suspension and putting in the darker parts of it, so that the shiny bits can be highlighted more. The tires of the car I'll do over and over, because I'm seldom happy with a tire. Even after doing it 10 times, I'm still thinking, nah, it's not completely right. And then I sometimes end up overdoing it, but I try to put as little as possible detail on a rotating tire, because like I said previously, you don't want too much detail on it, because then it will start to look like it's standing still. And if it's standing still, you're robbing the car of its motion. And here I want a lot of motion. I want speed. I want a ridiculous speed, because it must look really chaotic, the way it would have felt to the driver to be the first guy to go at that speed around the circuit like that, where he could get killed anytime when a tire could burst, or a car could get out of control, of some stone that's kicked up by another car would hit him on the head, or there's so many things that could go wrong there. It's almost a miracle that they survived these races, and it's to me just amazing to look at it. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and share, and I hope to see you soon with part 3. Keep well.